Gretchen Whitmer is the person that Joe did want to have as his running mate. It's pretty well known that they felt that they needed somebody in the Rust Belt, especially a state like Michigan, which would have been the last state that you would have expected to go red in 2016 and almost went red again in 2020. As far as I'm concerned, it would have politically made a lot of sense. But there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes with Governor Whitmer and her administration. On the one hand, obviously, we applaud them 1,000% for repealing right to work. But there is a hell of a lot more bad stuff going on in Michigan that a lot of people don't know about. And please educate our audience as to what that is.
Let's talk about Michigan.
Hey, well, I was recently in Flint, which I've obviously stayed on for almost a decade at this point. But I was hearing quite a lot about Kalamazoo, which is 2 hours west of Flint, and a paper mill that's owned by Graphic Packaging. So Graphic Packaging is a multi-billion-dollar packaging company, a lot of beer bottles, food packaging they make. They have paper mills and other plants all over the country. But I was being told by residents in predominantly the Black neighborhood in Kalamazoo that this paper mill was just legitimately poisoning the Black part of Kalamazoo. And, you can cover it from afar and speak with residents, but until you go, you just don't know. So I went there a couple of weeks ago and driving into the plant parking lot, my cameraman and I immediately, the smell was so, I've never smelled anything like this. It just immediately went up your nose, down your throat. My eyes were burning. And that was being in the parking lot of this paper mill that is emitting over 30 kinds of gases. So then we set up a live stream, like a block away. The residents I was interviewing, we had to keep stopping for them to be using their inhalers because it's that bad. My cameraman had a severe headache all night after that interview. I had a headache the next day when we went back to the plant. Just talking on camera, you kind of sound almost disoriented because whatever the hell they're pumping into the community is headache inducing, disorienting, dizziness. So then I started talking to residents that it's a horror story after horror story. One woman, she lived in the community, but a couple years ago moved closer to the plant. Her daughter had, minor asthma as a kid. Moving closer to that plant, it got so severe, she had a severe asthma attack and died. They couldn't save her. 17-year-old girl, Black woman. Her 32-year-old son is now on 24/7 life support. The community has insane levels of asthma, COPD, heart disease, kidney problems. And the main activist who could not get media to cover it really, aside from just an article here and there, Graphic Packaging fined but nothing, no aggressive media coverage on why is this plant not shut down? Why is there no health data? So then I learned that Whitmer in 2021, her administration, despite a shit ton of complaints from residents, this company being fined repeatedly by the Environmental and Health Department for passing regulatory levels of air emissions, they approved a $125 million bond deal for this multi-billion-dollar company so that they could expand this plant. So they now in 2021 started releasing a shit ton more of this gas. And I saw the emails with the activists. People from the environmental department, the same Michigan environmental department that covered up the Flint water crisis, were telling her, yes, I came and investigated by doing sniff tests with their nose. And there was a mild smell, but nothing that bad. This is what the environmental department was telling these residents. Residents could not open their windows. Residents could not have company over because the smell was so bad. Playgrounds are empty because parents don't let their kids out. There's a daycare 300 feet from this plant. They don't let the kids out. Elementary schools, they don't let the kids out for recess. We're not talking about like Zimbabwe. not to, we're talking about Michigan. So, fortunately I went there, I put up a fuss. One of my reports did very well on Twitter. It got like 60,000 views. Then we did a video on breaking points from there that got similar. There started just being a rush of people tagging Whitmer and the health department and shaming them, particularly that poor woman who lost her 17-year-old daughter. That really got around. And all of a sudden, this 3-year health study that for some reason was delayed for 3 years finally was released after I went there. And what do you know? It found this company is releasing hazardous levels of hydrogen sulfide. It's good and bad because the health study was kind of bullshit. They only looked at the 100 other chemicals they're releasing over 3 years. They only looked at them for 3 days. And I believe that the company had a tip off on when they were monitoring those other chemicals. So probably peeled back, their emissions for those days. But essentially, the Michigan Health Department recommended after saying, yes, they are releasing hazardous levels of hydrogen sulfide, which long-term will cause sinus issues, asthma issues, et cetera. And their recommendation was telling these people to stay inside if it smells.
What do you know? How long has that paper mill been like the industry thing there? Like, has this been something that they've just?
That paper mill's been there for decades, but
right.
The severity of this problem has been going on for over a decade.
Okay, so because I remember
got a lot worse in 2022 when they expanded, and now
but I wonder
after
if this is
after it expanded, it's shifting to the white part of town. The white part of town is now smelling.
Well, then something will get done about it. Then people will care. But like this is something that I've known about forever about the smell from the paper mills. There's one in Canton, North Carolina, and there's one in Greeley, Colorado, and I've known people in both those. And the paper mill thing is huge contamination. Huge amounts of contamination. So as to whether or not this particular one is beyond the pale of exceeding what even within the parameters of what's normal, or are they all just equally as bad and we just don't know because there's not enough of you going around and covering all the different ones?
Right. Well, I've learned through just talking to experts and doing a little research, smell doesn't necessarily equate with health problem. I mean, you could have in showering, I'm sure sometimes people have showered and it kind of smells like rotten eggs, right? That's not necessarily a health problem. It could mean
sulfur.
Right. So you can have smelly paper mills that are not necessarily poisoning you. Right. They just, need to tinker with how they do things. But in this case, a multi-billion-dollar company has no carbon. They're not using carbon filters. That's number one, which I don't even know how that's legal. Number two,
I'm sure it isn't.
It's not legal.
Right. Number two, they are at some points the allowable limit, which Aaron Brockovich will tell you is bullshit. The levels that are quote allowable is 1.4 parts per billion of hydrogen sulfide. The air sensors that they now have up, a resident there sent me, it was at 759 parts per billion. That's 700 times the allowable limit. That is a five-star alarm fire, or whatever it's called, evacuate. And that's happening over Memorial Day weekend. Residents were telling me the smell was just beyond the pale. They couldn't.
That's
even
almost
go outside.
like genocidal stuff. Like now you're talking about the kind of thing that you're making permanent generational genetic damage to people in these communities. It's seemingly a little genocidal to me.
Well,
whether or not it's intentional.
In 2015, 1,950 black babies under the age of 1 died in Kalamazoo County. 90% of black people live in this neighborhood near this plant. So almost 2,000 black babies under the age of 1 died. Then the data mysteriously was removed from the Kalamazoo County health website. So we don't know the numbers since then. But that was 5 times white infant death. So you're talking about almost 2,000 black infants dying in this neighborhood. I mean, it's beyond the pale. Somebody I mean, I've reached out to Whitmer's office. They just don't answer. Maybe they'll answer the New York Times if the New York Times gave a shit. Somebody needs to question the governor because she ran on environmental justice and justice for Flint, which she fucking screwed them over too. But yeah, I mean, this is generational. Severe asthma rates, COPD, heart disease, kidney problems. And I mean, this is anecdotal, but my eye was swollen for 2 weeks after going there. My cameraman was sick for a week. And these are the
things you see. Right? These are the things you see. No, the bigger issues is that's the kind of stuff that does chromosomal damage to people, that then they pass on things like defects, like beyond just getting, whatever your surface sickness. And this is like, it has to be, you get to a point where how is it not purposeful? It's like, if you know that something is existing and you're choosing to not do something about it, that's purposeful.
Well, here's the problem, and this is much bigger than Michigan, and this is the neoliberal hellscape that people like Joe Biden helped create. Graphic Packaging employs 650 people in Kalamazoo. It's a large employer. It donates to the colleges, 100,000 here or there. Donates to the food pantries, the nonprofits, and because let's just say 40 years ago, we changed our governmental policy to allow multi-billion-dollar companies to write our trade deals. We don't really have industry here anymore. So if Governor Whitmer or the state of Michigan or any government wanted to actually criminally threaten these companies, or even civilly with like a real game-changing fine, they could say, all right, we'll go to Mexico, go to China. And these cities are deathly afraid of losing industry because Flint and Detroit could tell you, I mean, losing GM crushed both of them. So you basically have, and I'm not exaggerating, and I don't think it's dramatic, you have governors and city councils and mayors, because this Kalamazoo mayor and city commissioners there have been ignoring this for years, but now suddenly it's a top priority once I came down there and the health study came out. But they're willing to look the other way and allow these companies to poison the community for the sake of jobs, even if we haven't even gotten to the people that the employees that work there have very high cancer rates because they're working there.
Yeah, the
so
jobs
it
are
is
killing them. These jobs are killing them. So what do you do at that point? Maybe I
literally in the parking lot when I was leaving that first day, a guy in his car asked me, "What were you guys doing over there?" Because he saw the cameras and everything. I explained the story. He said, "Oh, I work inside. I always wondered what they were releasing. I got really bad asthma, and it's getting worse." I said to him, "Sir, I try not to tell people what to do, but I would, if you can, get a new job because you're probably going to get cancer."
They don't care. They don't care. It's to some extent, it's just, I don't see it as any other thing but purposeful. But I don't know why we couldn't give those same people, why couldn't they have jobs? I don't know, in creating infrastructure so that Flint could have clean water.
Well, it's the same problem.
Wouldn't you be able to hire people to do that and not, put out disgusting chemicals? I don't know.
Well, it's the same problem with Norfolk Southern, as you alluded to. This, what's the name of the paper mill? The
Graphic Packaging.
Graphic Packaging, as you alluded to, are major financial contributors to both political parties. This is not a mistake. This is exactly how it works. There is a reason why, and this is something that a lot of people, may or may not be surprised to hear, but one of Ron DeSantis's biggest financial bundlers for his presidential run was one of Obama's biggest financial bundlers. This is not a mistake. This is how this game works. It's not a conspiracy. We are run by, if you look over Jordan's left shoulder, the United Corporations of America. That's who runs this country.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.